You talked about the competition, which is interesting because not only do you have to know your business in and out, but you have to kind of know theirs to almost create a competitive moat to be in the space,
Yeah.
right? So like you're doing this by yourself, right? There's, at this point, there's no partner with you, right? It's just you?
I had a early co-founder
Mhm.
who was with us for about 4 years. So I was involved in this early fundraising. We sparred a lot on this and traded notes and really played off each other super well. And then after they departed, then it was just me on all of my other rounds since then. I was always leading the fundraise. So, that's why I have a particular depth. And then I ended up writing a playbook.
I wanted to get to that. I wanted to
Yeah,
get to that, but I'm because I want people to really understand the amount of time that goes into this, the amount of sacrifice,
it's insane.
right? Like there's relationships that get sacrificed, friendships, all these sacrifices that no one sees on the front end, but like you're actually dealing with that on top of trying to create something that again is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm describing took an extraordinary amount of time. I mean, Bolt's seed round probably spanned 3 years of doing small check after small check until we had enough traction to raise like an A round, which was a little bit bigger. And then our B and C and D round, we started to get institutional backers who would take big pieces of the round. But in the beginning, they were long drawn out. We're raising on SAFE, which is this instrument called a simple agreement for future equity, few page agreements that we were raising money onto. And another thing that I did is everyone gets consumed with round size. What's the round size? For me, I've raised incrementally. So, for Bolt, initially, I got a few. Once I started to realize the strategy, I got a few people to lean in. It was like, we're going to raise 1 million. That filled up pretty quickly. And then, we're like, yeah, might as well open another 1 million as more people became interested or raise another 500,000. And then, when you say, oh, we're actually going to raise two, we've already raised the one. Now you're 50% complete versus, starting around saying I'm raising 2 million and I have none.
Mhm.
Right? I'd rather start around and say, all right, I have a few people for leading. They're probably good for 500,000. So we're going to raise 1 million or 750K. So next person I go to, the round's almost done already. Versus how most founders start off with is they go to someone and none of the round's done. If I'm going to talk to you about a round, it's going to be mostly done already. Before I'm like talking economics with you. Even those people are forward leaning, I'm going to wait till a few others are forward leaning. And then I'm going to say, hey, we're doing 1 million, but I've got about 600 or 700 already circled up. You're one of my early conversations. I'm really excited to have you involved. Let's talk about formalizing your investment.
Good strategy.
So, and you've raised a lot of money, just to put it in context for people, because you're speaking from firsthand experience, right?
Yes.
So you talked about the time, but can you say how much time? Okay, for a founder that's looking to raise, what should they expect? They should expect to put 2 hours out of their day. They should expect to put 12 hours out of their day. What's a realistic expectation as far as the time commitment for a founder that is trying to raise money?
I mean, if you're trying to do it properly, it's 100% of your life.
That's the time frame.
That's the time commitment. And ideally you have a partner or a head of operations or a CTO that can hold over the fort.
That's running the business.
So
you should just be focused on you can't split your time between running the business and raising money.
This is it.
This is it. I mean, once you get the hang of it and pass a critical threshold and you're cool to just take some checks casually here and there, once you're casual and you've already crossed the chasm, great, but until that point, you're 100%. Get someone else in your company. Give everyone a heads up that you're going to be off the grid for a bit. Fundraising. This is all you're focused on. 100% of the focus. And, spend a couple hours a day on the business. Um, and so, a lot of people get nervous about fundraising purely because they're not focused on it. So it's never going to happen because this is a thing that requires such intense focus. You need to block off everything else in your life, spending 100% of your time on this thing. You need to go read my book, which is not something I did. This is a labor of love.
What's your book called?
It's called Fundraising by Ryan Breslow. Start off as a playbook that I wrote, a Google Doc that I gave to my friends. This was a labor of love. I had no time to write this book, but I made the time because founders needed this wisdom because I saw too many making the same mistakes over and over again. And so you need to memorize this book, follow it to a T. You can put your own style and flavor on it, of course, but really understand it and dedicate 100% of your time to this.
So while you're doing the fundraising and you're 100% dedicated to it, right before this, is this when you're creating the conscious culture playbook because you know that you're not going to be there on a day to day the way that you probably would be if you weren't trying to raise?
Yeah, so that came later for me, but I was creating a playbook on culture. I like systems scale. If your team doesn't know how it's going to operate, what it values, it's very hard to scale your company. And so I don't like repeating myself. I like methodology and formula, as you can tell, for things that I know work. And so I had a great CEO coach. His name is Matt Mochari. He's got a great book, Mochari Method, that everybody should read on CEOing. He gave me his method, which was my foundations of conscious culture. And then I made it my own. I mean, he taught it to me intensively for about 3 months. And then over the next 5 years, I kept the document being like, this is what works. This is what doesn't work for me. And so I created my own playbook. And then I ended up publishing that to the world on conscious.org, which we're redoing. We're going to relaunch. It's not where it needs to be right now. But and this is the playbook we used to build and scale Bolt. And the conscious culture came from more of a spiritual aspiration to bridge humanity with execution.
Mm.
This is the marriage that I really wanted to facilitate, and I think conscious culture gets to that.